We are back. It's League Unlock, and you thought the LPL has kicked off. We're only a couple weeks away from the LCS and LEC. The offseason is done, and behind us, the roster moves no more. It was fun while it lasted. Well, you're dead wrong, because Griffin, since the LCK doesn't start for another full month almost, they're still finalizing that roster. And one of the biggest question marks we had was, how can a player like Ucal not be on a roster for 2020? It was a real head scratcher, and now you no longer have to scratch your head because he's going to Griffin, which is a great move for them. It's a great move for Ucal as well because he's actually going to be playing on a team. We were a little bit worried about Griffin as a whole with the roster, the solo lanes being a little bit of an issue, and I mean, top lane is still going to be a bit of an issue, as we talked about. Antara and Sword, either combination of them, doesn't matter who's starting, they're going to be near the bottom, the very bottom of top laners in the LCK for 2020. So that is still very much a weak point and question mark for Griffin as they head in to this new year. But they were number 7 on our power rankings, and if we redid them with Ucal in the mid lane, they might go up a spot, or you'd at least be more confident in them being a higher number 7, that meaning they'll be in contention for playoffs. And I think they have a very good shot of doing that now, just because Tarzan and Viper already proven world-class players in their respective roles. Ucal has international experience. He's performed well there. He's been one of the best laners in the LCK as well. And even last year on Africa, we'll try and forget about what happened in spring because he was hardly playing with the roster. There were so many issues. It was hard to pinpoint them with that Africa Freak squad. But in summer, he went back to good old lane domination Ucal. He had some fantastic performances. The champ pool was a little bit different than what we saw from him when he was on KT Rolster. But for people to have seemingly given up on him after a year and a half of playing, you saw that stat. He's almost the exact same age as Chovy. He's 18 years old. So we had one bad split on Africa when the entire team was very suspect. It was ridiculous that he wasn't going to be on a team. Maybe he had already spoken to Griffin, and this is something that had been in the works for a long time. But either way, very happy to see him, and he'll be playing in 2020. You got to assume he's going to be starting the majority of games over Nahun. He's absolutely going to be an upgrade over him. And this is a big change for Griffin. It should be good for both parties. And a guy who's going to be lane dominant and love to get his CS edges and put pressure in the mid lane. That's something Tarzan, when Chovy was looking at his absolute best throughout 2019, it was because Tarzan was giving a lot of attention around that mid lane, and that is something that he can absolutely do with Ucal, a lot more than you would probably expect him to do with Nahun in that mid lane. And I just think the carry potential is much more present when Ucal is around as the mid laner. We know Nahun has been more of a supportive mid laner to kind of push forward his other lanes. With him as your starter, there's going to be too much pressure on Viper to carry a lot of these games, but Ucal, we've seen, has more than the mechanics, potential, and ability to carry some of these squads to victory. So Griffin, I think this puts them right in the forefront of that playoff push. They'd probably still be, maybe you bump them up to number 6 if we redid the rankings ahead of Sandbox and kind of vying with Africa. But those 3 squads, Africa, Sandbox, and Griffin, only one of them will probably be making playoffs, but I think all 3 of them are going to be in the very thick of that playoff race. And we know how crazy it gets in the LCK towards the end of that regular season. And the other bit of news people have been waiting for around the LCK is who's going to be casting? Who's commentating these games? Because Papa Smithy's in North America. He's not going to be there. We hadn't heard any news on the replacement front for him until now. We know that eJim is going to be filling in as one of the color casters for 2020. LS is already going to be returning. He'll be there. But, you know, you need 2 casters to actually give some of these guys a bit of break. But eJim, another OPL, another Aussie coming over to Korea. And, I mean, the LCK and LPL has just been filled with Australian casters for many years. But Papa Smithy, he'll be missed. We know he's over at 100 Thieves as the GM this year. He's already been doing and filming plenty of content. We know him and Atlas were boys as of last year. Papa was almost consensus one of, if not the best color commentator throughout all of 2020 or 2019, excuse me. So it's huge shoes to fill for eJim. If you're not familiar with him, he was at Worlds. He did a lot of the play-ins. He's been casting OPL for a long time. He's a former pro player in the Oceanic scene. I was actually a big fan of him at the World Championship. He had really good game knowledge, which makes sense because he's a former professional player. He was very well spoken, well articulated, and getting across his points. Him and Atlas already had some great synergy because they are both formerly of the OPL, so excited to see both of them on the desk. And the LCK, one of the main reasons why people choose to watch it over the LPL is just the production quality of the broadcast. The casters overall usually put on a better show than what you see in the LPL. The production team is better. You expect that theme to continue, and eJim, it's a tough spot for him to try and fill Papa Smithy's shoes. Nobody is ever going to be able to fully replace him, but I think he's going to do a more than serviceable job. He has plenty of time to research because I'm going to keep memeing that it doesn't start until February, so he'll be able to get fully familiarized with all the players and teams in the league. And the OPL and Australia in general, that entire Oceanic scene is just an absolute hotbed for on-air talent. When you look across all of the major regions, there are former OPL casters dropped in pretty much every single one of them. Excited to see eJim in 2020, but that is all the time today for League Unlocked. My name is Eric. Thank you guys for hanging out with us as always, and we will catch you on the flippity flop.